Welcome to Office Hours. I'm Steve Drost. With me, as always, Will Kaplan. Of course, Will and I are both from the Quivr team. Now, what is Quivr? We are the CRM built by financial advisors for financial advisors. And our objective is simple. How can we help you run your business at peak efficiency? And each week, we tackle a couple of items that came directly from our users who are trying to do just that, make their lives a little bit easier. Will, one of my favorite things about Office Hours, selfishly, is I get to hear from tons of advisors who are running their practices, and it makes my business so much better, without a doubt. I'm not perfect, never claimed to be perfect, but you just get to hear from other people. And it was interesting because we were talking about this. There was a topic of Office Hours that came up, and it's like, what's the difference between a contact and a related party, and what's this and what's that? And like all Office Hours, they are very rarely just black, white, this field, that field. And it's almost always philosophical. Wouldn't you agree?
More often than not, absolutely. I mean, there are times we get a couple of like, I just don't understand how this works. Can you show me like what button to click? But a lot of it is the philosophical, which I think is the harder part, is there is no single way to set these things up. There's a lot of different options. And to your point, learning from how other people are finding success is such a shortcut. And so, and this is absolutely one of those places where, there is a kind of overriding philosophy of how contacts work, how related parties work, when you reach for one, when you reach for the other, what that allows you to do, that we've learned, I think, just by a lot of different people using it. And we get to kind of see what's working well for them and what kind of tricks that they're implementing along the way and things like that. But it isn't just like black and white. There are a couple different ways that you can implement it with a couple of guardrails that are in place that are just sort of Salesforce makes you do certain things in certain ways. But yeah, this was an interesting conversation because what we were dealing with is this was a newer user. They'd converted a ton of data. They brought so much data in, and they had not, without getting anybody in trouble, they had not maybe cleaned up their data as well as they would have wanted to, and they didn't realize at the time. But then it started, they've got something new. They're looking at Quivr for the first time. They're like, well, wait a second, this isn't organized. This doesn't feel right. How do I put more information in? And that's really where we started using this, because what they had been doing is basically, Steve, they had an attorney that was working for a particular household, for a family, and they had that individual in as a con. And, in this particular case, you and I both know immediately there's going to be a conflict there. And obviously the conflict in this particular case is contacts really can only live under one household. And so as soon as that attorney gets a referral to another household in that practice and they go to try and link it, they're not going to be able to, right? It's not a one-to-many type relationship. And in order to get around that, Salesforce uses this like kind of a clever little tool where you're making a many-to-many type of a connection. They call it a junction object. And what we're doing there is we're basically using related parties in this case to say, oh, this attorney works for their firm. Their firm becomes the household. So it's a little bit confusing, because it's not just a client household now. It's, we've got law firms in there, we've got CPA firms in there, but they work at that firm. But then as a related party, they also work with this group of clients. And the nice thing about it, again, as you know, is it allows you to sort of track which clients are working with which COIs. And you can start to kind of build those referential lists of, okay, show me, all of my clients that work with this CPA firm, all of my clients who work with this CPA at that firm versus a different CPA at that firm. And, I would imagine you probably use this in your business as well, to similar types of things. But some of the cool stuff that you can also do about it is, theoretically, as you're doing some of these reports and you're taking, you're using what that related party information, now you can start to sort of communicate with some of those people. Or if, we're doing like QCDs and we want to say like, okay, I'm going to take all of this QCD information and I'm not only going to send it to the client, but I'm going to send it to their CPA. And you can start to kind of build some of those relationships inside of Quivr. I found that to be extremely helpful. I think that where we see some of our users struggle a little bit with this is when you're building it out the first time, it's more work, right? Like there's a lot of things in Quivr where it's like, I got to get data into the system. And many times that's the most painful part. And so, as you're doing that first step, yeah, you've got to put in their law firm. What if it's just one attorney they just have a kind of a solo practice. They don't have any other attorneys at their firm. Well, I'd still recommend you put in the whole firm just to have that record in the system. Is that how you do it?
100%. What if they hire, right? No, I agree. The every feature in Quivr is incredibly intentionally built to help you do something. And related parties fits that perfectly, in my opinion. So a contact, right? Yeah, you're right. Any single person in the system, an individual, that's a contact. But what household should they live in to me is dependent on one question. Is this the only family that they will ever work with? They'll ever be a part of, they'll ever be involved with. And if the answer to that is yes, then they go inside of that household. So that includes maybe beneficiaries, kids, things like that. If the answer is like, no, that's not how it's going to work, then they need to be in their own household for exactly what you just said. That CPA should be in their own. They need to be separate. And let's take a real life use case. As of the recording of this, we're approaching tax time. I want all of my clients' tax returns every single year. Now, if somebody can help me actually get 100% every year, I would love to know how you do it. For some reason, I only get 80 to 90% every year, which I hear is good. But I work most of my clients, there are three methods in which their tax return is prepared. I have one CPA, I have two CPA, right? CPA 1 and CPA 2, they do about 2/3 of my clients' returns. And then I have the tranche of individuals who do it themselves. So what I want to know is who works with the first CPA, who works with the second CPA, and who does it themselves. Because in about, I don't know, end of April, early May, we are going to send three separate emails. One is going to go to the first CPA and say, hey, we work with these 17 clients. Send me their tax returns. Here's the link. And they're going to send us those returns. We'll send the exact same list to CPA 2, and then we'll send individual emails to those clients that do their work on their own. And now my mom, right, my admin doesn't have to come to me and ask who does this, who does that. No, 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 no. We send a mass email out of Quivr in about, well, we don't do it. She does. And about 17 seconds, that sends that email to that CPA with the list of everybody they work with the upload link, and we're done. She then sends the second email to the second CPA and then the mass email to the individual clients. So we are requesting every tax return in less than 5 minutes because of that related party. And the exact same thing is going to be true for estate attorneys. The exact same thing is going to be true for insurance agents, you name it. So related parties are pulled out of the household to get that, right, that one to many, that many to many relationship so we can act on it. So yeah, it takes an extra 30 seconds to put Joe Blow CPA in his own household, but it's going to save us how much time every year when it comes to asking for tax returns?
Well, and Steve, not only that, I mean, you have the ability then to say, like, in your case is a good example. I've got X number of clients that work with CPA 1. I've got X number of clients that work with CPA 2. Am I taking those individuals to lunch? Am I having coffee with them? Am I in front of them as a way to say, hey, you're working with these clients. Are they a good fit? Are any of them are you finding that relationship challenging? Are you struggling with getting paperwork from them? Are they signing stuff on time? Like, you're able to kind of smooth out that relationship. And whether it's bringing them more business or bringing yourself more business through just being, a good advisor that CPA now sees the value of, like, Steve's doing good work. Those clients seem happy. I should send him, if that question comes up, I could potentially refer business to Steve. Like, it just gives you more visibility into what's going on inside of your practice, whether it is from to your point, I got to get work done, or from that business development, this is a COI that I want to focus on because, there's a significant amount of business going in there. I mean, I remember when I was practicing, we had two very different, it was just random that we had these kind of two CPAs that a lot of clients sort of grouped under. One of them was super responsive, really doing a good job. The other was like getting returns wrong and filing stuff late. And like, it was just, and so I knew kind of what to expect because I could see those lists of these are the clients that are going to be happy. These are the clients that are probably a little frustrated. What do we do about this as well? And so it also even gave me some foresight into some of the conversations that we ended up having because clients were getting frustrated with the one CPA. And I was like, hey, I totally get it. I'm hearing that from other clients too. Let's figure it out. So
And then
yeah, I think having those
you know who
relationships
you're
is
not sending your next person to.
exactly. So, but I think
Sorry, keep going. Keep going.
the only other thing I was going to say is I think with, the only other place that we seem to get questions about this frequently is for adult children.
Yeah.
And I would say typically adult children probably should have their own household. And the only reason for that is that, they might become a client. You might want to treat them as a prospect that allows you to put them in that funnel if you want them in that funnel. If it's something where you're like, yeah, they live like 10 states away, there's never going to be a chance that we're going to work together. Okay, great. Keep them in that same household.
Yeah. You can always move a contact to their own household for sure. For sure. For
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
absolutely.
No. But that's a wrap. Good stuff as always. I love the philosophical conversations. If you are a Quivr user, just have that light go off. If there's something that you're trying to accomplish, right? If you have that question about, I have an accountant. Where should I put them in the system? Trust that there's a good chance that either we have thought about it or somebody else has thought about it. Submit a ticket, come to office hours, ask questions. Because like I said, this system is incredibly intentional to help you run your practice as efficient as possible. So remember, we are a resource here to help you. If you're not a Quivr user, that's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody is perfect. But remember, It's not too late. Schedule a demo, come hang out with me, come hang out with Will, and see what Quivr can do for you.